Hello and welcome to Markets Forward on CNBC-TV18. I'm Vinny Motiwala. With me is my colleague Hormaz Pataki as well. Hormaz, it's been a day where we started near those record highs. We touched the record high level and then a different story played out after that, right? Maybe profit booking or rupee depreciating so much. Whatever factors came into play, we didn't close on a good footing as much as we started the day with.
The bulls will be disappointed for sure. And the gap up that was indicated by the GIFT Nifty earlier in the day, and of course the gap up that we opened with eventually, but then could not sustain at those levels. Similar was the case on last Thursday as well, when we had first hit that record high of 26,310, eventually making a new high today, but again could not sustain. Of course, a lot of the heavy lifting or the blame needs to be done by the rupee. The depreciation that took place towards between 11 and 11:30 this morning, and that caused the sell-off from the elevated levels. There you can see on the charts there. Of course, we began to cool off from the elevated levels from the start itself, but the bigger fall came in after the rupee began to weaken, and then it was just meandering in that very narrow range. But the only good part is that we mentioned about 26,100, 26,150 being a support for the Nifty. It's managed to close above those levels.
Okay, at least closing above those levels. So let's not panic too much. There's nothing to worry on that front, right? 26,150, if you're managing to hold on to levels, that's interesting to watch out for. The broader end of the market, when you look at that today, slight bit of a positive versus what we saw in the benchmark indices. So yes, that is what we'll keep an eye on, though advance decline ratio still was in favor of the declines versus advances. So let's watch out for that. Metals clearly were the outperformers today. But let's move on and talk about what's on the show for y'all. We have a very exciting lineup for y'all today. We'll start with the top movers and shakers of the day with Sudarshan, and then move on, talk about Wockhardt. Those shares rallied in trade, and this came in after US FDA accepted the company's new drug application for its antibiotic. Meanwhile, November auto sales numbers came largely in line with expectations. Metal stocks, they were running away in trade, focus on the commodity prices as well that continued to surge. So we'll be talking all of that, as well as, last but not the least, which are the key important market events to watch out for in tomorrow's trading session. We'll take you all through all of that. But first up, let's go across to our research segment to Sudarshan, who's waiting by to tell us the top movers and shakers from the big world. Sudarshan, over to you.
So I'll start with the stocks or companies from the auto space, because auto companies have reported sales for the month of November, and sales were largely higher than expectations, or say in line for few companies. So TVS Motor, it was an all-round beat. Company has seen a growth of 29% for the total sales, and some of the segments like three-wheeler has seen a growth of almost 150%. EV has seen a growth of almost 50%. On the back of that, stock was higher, up almost 4%. Eicher Motors, you can see it has closed in the green, but it has closed off highs because total sales have come in below expectations, and the reason was models above 350cc has seen a decline in the total sales. Bajaj Auto, total sales were up 8% in line with estimates, but domestic sales remain under pressure. Domestic two-wheeler sales for the month of November has seen a decline of almost 1%. That's the reason stock was off highs. CV space has surprised positively when expectations were that they would do good, but they have not done good, they have done better, and that's the reason both Tata Motors CV and Ashok Leyland were higher. Tata Motors CV closed with a gain of more than 1%. As you talked about, for US Wockhardt, US FDA has accepted its application of antibiotic Xenic, and that's the reason stock has moved higher. It was up more than 19%. Positive brokerage notes were there for Kafin and Paytm. Paytm, it had come on Friday. That day also stock had moved higher. It has seen follow-up buying, and today also it has moved higher, almost 4%. Kafin Tech, there was a positive note from Jefferies, and that's the reason stock was up almost 4%. On Friday, if you remember, Appellate Tribunal of Electricity has released certain observations related to market coupling, and that day IX had fallen almost 3 to 4%, but it has regained entire losses, and today it has seen a gain of more than 5%. Metal stocks have moved higher, tracking the prices globally. Silver has moved to record high, even copper prices were higher, even aluminum prices were higher, and that's the reason two stocks I have selected. Hindustan Zinc, because it reacts to the move in silver, and Vedanta reacts to both copper, aluminum as well as silver. That's the reason both the stocks were higher in the trade. And lastly, realty stocks were under pressure. We still have few days to go before RBI policy comes. Will there be a rate cut or no rate cut? Whatever happens, we'll get to know in few days. But for today, realty stocks were under pressure.
The realty stocks under pressure. The broader market picture, though, not painting a pretty sight. Sudarshan, thank you for that update. And as Sudarshan was highlighting as well, it was a great day for Wockhardt. The US FDA accepting the company's new drug application for its antibiotic Zynic. This is the first time that an Indian company has received this nod for a new chemical entity. Ekta joins in with more on this. Ekta.
Well, yes, the news with regards to Wockhardt is that the US FDA has accepted Wockhardt's new drug application for their antibiotic Zynic, which is basically used to treat difficult infections in ICUs and hospital settings. Now, this new drug application was originally filed in September of 2025. Now, interestingly, Zynic has also been granted a fast-track designation by the US FDA, which basically means that they're going to prioritize the review. So as of now, they've just accepted the application. It still has to undergo the review process, but they've already put it under fast-track status. However, that might not change the outcome of what we can expect in terms of the review. However, the drug has already been used in India and the US on compassionate basis on critically ill patients. So this is something which, according to analysts, could possibly be an added advantage going forward for Wockhardt when they look at, when the US FDA looks at the review part of it. Now, in terms of what the company has said, that the drug will be manufactured by a third party in Europe. Peak revenues, according to them, will be significant. They could see around 150 crores in terms of revenue from Zynic in India itself. It saved around 51 lives in the past 1.5 years. As per the company. Now, the market size, according to them, in terms of, the antibiotics, the antimicrobial resistance market could be around $9 billion globally. These are earlier conversations, so that is something that we'd probably have to revisit. But they could possibly even consider out-licensing or maybe a partner when it comes to Zynic. Now, what are analysts saying? That the size could be around $1.5 billion globally for this drug. Wockhardt will be a patent holder if in case it eventually does get that approval from the US FDA. They think that it could be around a $500 million product for Wockhardt globally, and there could be an over 90% chance that they could possibly get approval from the US FDA going forward based on what they've seen in terms of the phase 3 data. So positive news for Wockhardt, but we'll really have to see what the review from the US FDA does. But the stock seems to be, factoring in a lot more at this point.
Thank you so much for that, Ekta. But let's go across to our guests for today. We do have Sudeep Bandyopadhyay, Group Chairman at ND Trade Capital, as well as Richard Jain of Motilal Oswal Financial Services. Richard, let me start with you and ask you about first the market. Like Hurma started also and said that, we managed to hold on to 26,150 for the Nifty. But what are we keeping an eye out on? If it goes below that, what are the levels that we should keep an eye out on? And if this holds on, then where do we see that moving? Also, in terms of Wockhardt, have you looked at the charts as well?
Yeah, hi, very good afternoon, Vinny. Very good afternoon to everyone. Well, today's move, although we have seen some cool off from the highs, but that does not change the overall trend for the market, which has been positive, at least on the index and the large cap stocks front. So yes, there has been some divergence over last couple of months where the large caps are doing good, but there is no positive move coming in from the small cap space. So still there are no signs of trend reversal coming in the small cap space. So we believe that divergence would continue, where the fresh momentum or the buying momentum would continue only in large caps and to certain large mid cap names. But the small caps are not showing any signs of uptrend as of now. So given that more buying interest is keen towards the large cap names, I think that uptrend in the index should stay intact. The 20-day exponential moving average, where the recently markets took support, is now placed around 25,960, so roughly around the 26,000 mark. So I think till that 26,000, 25,960 is intact, we should see a continuation of the uptrend on the benchmark indices, and we could see an up move towards 26,400 to 26,500, where some call writing position is there. So I think the market should challenge that. So on the upside, 26,400, 26,500 is the level that we are watching for till this 20 EMA support is intact. Now, Wockhardt, yes, today, based on the news flows, we did see a good up move, and that too was supported by very high volumes. And ideally, the stock has already seen a good price-wise correction over last couple of months. From a high of 1850, 1900, stock had already seen a correction towards 1250. So I think a pullback move towards 1600 could be seen, which would be approximately 50% retracement of this entire correction. But given that good volumes there along with the price up move, I think that should lead to some further positive moves in Wockhardt towards 1600 mark.
Okay, let's move on then and talk about the auto stocks as well. November auto sales numbers, they've come in, which are largely in line with estimates. Now, commercial vehicles saw a strong pickup with both M&M and Ashok Leyland reporting a high double-digit growth. Let's go across to Sudarshan to get asked the report card for what November's auto sales numbers look so far.
So sales for the month of November so far have been largely better than expectations. One segment we knew that it would do well because Vahan data was indicating a very strong demand, and that segment is commercial vehicle. Both the companies, Tata Motors commercial vehicle and Ashok Leyland, have reported numbers much better than expectations. In passenger vehicle, Maruti, Mahindra and Mahindra and Tata Motors passenger vehicle have reported better than expectations, but Hyundai's numbers were largely in line. In two-wheeler space, companies which have disappointed is Eicher Motors, and for Bajaj Auto it was largely in line, and the company which have done much better than expectations was TVS Motors. So I'll start with two-wheeler space. Bajaj Auto total sales have increased by 8%. Our expectation was also 8%, and the reason of drag is domestic sales. Domestic two-wheeler sales have seen a decline, while exports and three-wheeler continue to see a healthy growth. For Eicher, the segment which has not done well is models above 350cc segment, and that's seen a decline of 6%. And also exports growth have moderated this month. It just saw a growth of 6%, while the segment that is models below 350cc continues to see a healthy growth. For TVS Motor, it was an all-round beat. Total sales have increased by 29%. Our expectation was just 22%. All the segments have seen a double-digit growth. Three-wheeler has seen a growth of as much as 150%, and electric vehicle growth was almost 50%. Coming to passenger vehicle segment, Hyundai largely in line, saw a growth of 9%. Our expectation was in the range of 6 to 7%. Maruti, it has seen a healthy growth of 29%. Now, the segment which has done well, unusually, it's the entry-level segment. Two cars, Alto, Espresso. The growth this month in November was 66%. SUV continues to see a healthy growth. There also the growth was 22%. For Mahindra and Mahindra, continues to see a healthy growth, and it's being led by SUV segment. That saw a growth of 22%. Total growth was 19%. Tractor, as expected, has done very well. Both Mahindra and Mahindra tractor segment and Escorts Kubota have reported numbers better than expectations. In commercial vehicle segment, Ashok Leyland has seen a growth of 29%. Our expectation was 17%. Tata Motors commercial vehicle also saw a healthy growth. There also our expectation was 16%. So overall, the numbers so far, the companies have reported sales numbers are looking largely better than expectations.
Largely better than expectations is what the key takeaway is. Sudarshan, thank you for that. Sudeep, you heard Sudarshan with the auto sales numbers, and by and large, it would be fair to assume that the GST cut related festive season demand boost has more or less sustained, if not across the board. But where among the autos does your preferences lie, whether it be PV, CVs, or even the tractors for that matter?
Well, Hormuz, we have been positive on M&M on the back of tractors as well as SUVs, and I think that is amply being supported by the performance on ground. So M&M continues to remain our favorite. It has given fantastic return to the investors over the last 1.5 years, and we believe that it will continue to give so. As far as commercial vehicles are concerned, Ashok Leyland continues to do well, and we again believe that it will continue to outperform and perform the industry as well. As far as two-wheelers are concerned, we are positive on Hero MotoCorp. I think the numbers which Maruti came up with very clearly shows that there has been finally some pickup in the lower end of the market, which is why the Maruti's low-end vehicles have shown a fantastic growth. Hero MotoCorp, as we know, operates in that segment as well in two-wheelers, and we are expecting good set of numbers from Hero MotoCorp as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks for the view there. But let's move on, talk about the metal space. Nifty Metal was the top sectoral gainer today, and mainly silver and copper prices hit an all-time high on the back of Fed rate cuts hopes, and shares of Hindustan Zinc were in the spotlight as well as silver surpassed that $58 per ounce mark. Let's go across to Nigel to get more in terms of details for the metal stocks, what was leading to the run-up as well. Nigel.
Well, that's right. Metal stocks actually did well in today's trading session, and the metal index itself was higher in today's trading session. The key reason is that metal prices have moved up. Both base metal prices as well as precious metal prices, they had perked up over the weekend. And that's because the expectations that the Fed is going to go ahead and pull down rates by close to 25 basis points is rather high. So you had silver that made a fresh all-time high, and copper as well has fought back post the correction that we have seen. And both the core plays, on silver, you have just one listed play, which is Hindustan Zinc, and on copper, the only one that you can play the copper price up move is on Hindustan Copper. So both those two did rather well in today's trading session. On Hindustan Zinc, well, close to 40-45% of their EBIT comes in from the silver business. It's the pure play out there. And the street is building in expectations that possibly there will be a big ramp up in volumes in FY27, and there could be some kind of a spin-off as well that takes place. Hindustan Copper had corrected close to 10% from the recent peak, but that one pulled back in line with the bump up that we saw in copper prices. So net, you had silver and copper did well, and that's why Hindustan Zinc and Hindustan Copper did participate on the upside today.
Okay. That was the list of metal stocks that were buzzing around in trade today, and a couple of names that Nigel mentioned there. But let's move on, talk about Lenskart. That's another one that was buzzing around in trade. And this specifically came in after they reported their Q2 FY26 numbers. This is the first numbers they've reported since their listing as well. Good set of numbers that's coming from the company. Look at it. It opened up at 4% gains and came down and again back and closed with more than 4% gains. When you look at it in terms of the revenue of the company, good growth of around 20.8%. Margins 300 basis point, more than that expansion in terms of EBITDA margins for the company. And when you look at the profits of the company, they also saw growth of almost 20%. Main impact a bit on that came in because of the depreciation being high. So that is something that we'll be keeping an eye out on. Apart from that, international business saw very strong growth. That was leading the growth, 33.6% growth over there. While in terms of the international business, they reported an EBIT profit versus an EBIT loss last year. So surely that EBIT margin on the international front is a positive sign as well. India business continued to see a double-digit growth of 13%, and margins over there also saw a bit of an expansion there. Same-store sales growth for the first half of the year came in at 15.3%. Even the India store-level EBITDA margins overall came in at around 33%. They've given a positive outlook or a strong outlook on the back of their current numbers for FY26. That is why the stock was perked up in trade as well. Good numbers over there, so nothing to worry about. But let's go across to Sudeep there on that front as well. Sudeep, what's your view for Lenskart first?
Well, I think the numbers were definitely quite impressive. I was not positive on Lenskart, and I still maintain my cautious view. I think, the company is doing good. Performance has been good. The business is rock solid, and a significant scope for expansion does exist. With their international business also doing well, I think they are on a good wicket. The only challenge is the valuation. I think the valuation does look extremely rich, and I'll be very, very careful at this kind of valuation. Also, remember, there are a lot of shares are under lock-in. That lock-in gets over in a short while. Once the lock-in gets over, I expect some amount of selling to come in the counter and price to settle at a much more benign levels.
Okay.
Sudeep, Ruchit, thank you so much for sparing time and joining us today with your views on the index and specific stocks as well. Take a short break, get to the top corporate voices and some key events to watch on the other side. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Sriram Krishnan, the Chief Business Development Officer at NSE, told us that its share in equity options has improved by 10% after a shift in expiry to Tuesday. He also gave us an update on the exchange's IPO process. Listen in.
As far as NSE's IPO is concerned, that's dependent upon the regulatory clearances, and it will happen when it has to happen. So the industry regulator has to approve first, and then SEBI has to approve. In our case, SEBI is both the industry regulator and the capital markets regulator. So that's what we are waiting for. As far as equity options are concerned, if you look at August 2025, our market share was 76.9%. And I'm picking August 2025 because effective September 1st, 2025, we changed our expiry day for index options from Thursday to Tuesday. But if you see since then, if you look at November 2025, for example, our market share in equity options has gone up about 10% to 87%. So I think the market participants have accepted well to the change of expiry day from Thursday to Tuesday. And Tuesday seems to be working well for us.
Now let's move on to some corporate voices that we had through the day. First up, M&M management has told CNBC-TV18 that festive and wedding season tailwinds, along with the GST rate cuts, are driving strong demand across its entire portfolio. The company believes that GST cut may have triggered the start of a new 4-year commercial vehicle cycle.
L&T Finance is operating with a risk-first, tech-first philosophy backed by extensive use of AI. CEO Sudipta Roy said that the average AI collection call has about a 55% success rate. He also expects the second half of the year to outperform the first with around 20 to 25% AUM growth for the full year.
And before we wrap up this edition of Market Forward, let's go across to Sudarshan, who's here to tell us which are the key events to watch out for in tomorrow's trading session. Over to you, sir.
So it's getting tougher to find the events as we are getting closer to the year end. But nevertheless, for tomorrow, some of the events are lined up. First one is winter session of Parliament has begun today. So one bill that is likely to be proposed is Insurance Amendment Bill. And it might be important for one stock, that is Max Financial. Majority of the auto companies have reported sales for the month of November, but one company that is yet to report number and the expectation is very high is Hero MotoCorp. Trade deal talks have been undergoing for India with several countries, and with one country, that is Canada. India has started trade talks this week. So basically today they have started. Some of the stock that might be in focus, MSTC goes ex-dividend. Keep an eye on IT stocks, because if rupee fall continues, there might be an impact on IT stocks, positive impact we might see. And so the global macro events, Japan monetary base for the month of November is expected early morning tomorrow. Fed Chairman Jerome Powell is going to speak at 6:30 a.m. IST, and unemployment rate and CPI for European Union that we are expecting tomorrow as well.
Some interesting data points lined up. Sudarshan, thank you for that. Take your leave on this edition of Markets Forward. From Vinny and me, thank you for watching. And more news and updates continue on the other side. Indian equity markets face selling pressure at record highs. The Nifty slips below the 25,200 mark and the benchmark indices ultimately end flat, reflecting caution at elevated levels.
The Indian rupee hits an all-time low at 89.78 against the US dollar, nearing a 90 per dollar mark. The currency has depreciated nearly 90 paise in a month.
Wockhardt gets a new drug application approval from the US FDA for its novel antibiotic Zynic, making it the first by an Indian company to get a nod for a new chemical entity. This follows the launch of its science-driven program in 2011. The stock jumps.
And Mahindra and Bajaj Auto meet estimates with the November sales. Commercial vehicles see a strong pickup, with Mahindra, Escorts and Ashok Leyland reporting double-digit growth.